Hi everybody, welcome to the Belton Bond. This is going to be our labor and delivery story. So I'll just start off by saying that my due date of having our son Scotland was Friday, December the 10th. And I really wanted him to come, no, it was Saturday, December the 10th. So leading up to our due date, we had a doctor's appointment that Wednesday, December 7th. And earlier that week I had gone on a walk in our neighborhood where we have hills in our neighborhood. And I was walking down one of the hills and it's just like my stomach started to tighten up like I don't know what. I thought I was about to have the baby right then. But I wanted to start walking, because they say you can walk the baby down or whatever. So that was that Monday. And then Wednesday we had our doctor's appointment with my doctor. And the previous appointment, she checked my cervix and I was like, maybe half a centimeter dilated, and she said maybe a half if she was being, nice about it, but not really dilating at all. So the Wednesday, December 7th, I went and she was like, you're 2 centimeters dilated, so whatever you're doing, keep it up because it's working. And I was like, good. And when she examined me, I kind of felt like the labor was gonna come soon because of how, let me just say, thorough her exam was of my cervix. So my plan was to, walk Wednesday, have a little time with my husband on Thursday because they say that helps, and then go into labor sometime Friday, go in the hospital Friday night, have him Saturday morning. Well, actually, Wednesday after my doctor's appointment, I started to have contractions at work, but they were sporadic and random, maybe like an hour apart. Then I went to visit some friends Wednesday evening and I was sitting there in their living room and they could see me kind of like tensing up and breathing and everything. And they're like, are you okay? And I was like, I think I'm having contractions. And they're like, are you sure it's not Braxton Hicks? Given now, I don't even think I had Braxton Hicks when I was pregnant. I experienced some cramping. Maybe that's what Braxton Hicks is. I don't know. But they were like, are you having contractions? And I was like, I don't know, but they're like 35 minutes apart. And they were like, consistently? And I said, yeah. They were like, you may want to go on home. I was like, yeah, let me go home so I'm just more comfortable. So Wednesday night I came home, told my husband kind of how I was feeling. And I kept having contractions Wednesday night, Wednesday evening, and Wednesday night. But they were, just very random. But they were contractions. And what it feels like, what I can best relate it to is someone like taking a washcloth and wringing it out. But right there in the, bottom part of your stomach, they're just twisting it and wringing that washcloth out and everything tightens up. So I continue to have contractions Wednesday night, and I had the app, what was it called? Sprout on my phone, and it has a contraction counter on it. So Wednesday night through the night, I would wake up with contractions, but again, they were never consistent. They would be 20 minutes apart, 13 minutes apart, 17 minutes apart, things like that. But all Wednesday night I had contractions. So then my husband, Bobby, stayed home with me as well. And all day Thursday, I was just having contractions. Still nothing consistent, 13 minutes apart, 9 minutes apart, then 14 minutes apart. So they were never really consistent. So what we did was we were just hanging around the house. I called my sister. She works in the medical field, so does her husband. And they were like, why don't you just soak in the bathtub for a little bit? So I actually soaked in the bathtub Wednesday night as well. And then during the day, Thursday, because she wanted to make sure they were real contractions. If they went away in the bathtub, then they maybe weren't real. But they did not go away in the bathtub. The bathtub only did help with the pain. So they kept coming, and then I decided, why don't we go ahead and take a walk on Thursday? So my husband and I walked around our neighborhood. Our neighborhood does have hills, as I mentioned earlier. So we were walking around. Of course, I would have to pause when I got a contraction and just breathe through it. But I was at that point ready for him to come. So I was like, if there's anything I can do to help this process along, let me go ahead and do it. So I believe that the walking helped, because after we came for the walk, I think it was around 4 o'clock Thursday, December 8th, that afternoon, when my contractions, maybe for a little bit, were coming, 4 minutes apart, 7 minutes apart. They were getting closer. So I ended up calling my doctor's office at that point, and they were just like, if they aren't 5 minutes apart consistently for an hour, then, just continue to labor at home and, go through your contractions. So that's what I did. I didn't want to get to the hospital too early, but I didn't want to wait until the last minute either. So just more of the same, at home, laboring. I had this exercise ball that I would sit on and kind of roll around, and that kind of helped ease the pain. And also I felt the contractions in my back, so I believe I had a little bit of back labor. So when that would happen, my husband would come and, rub my back and just try to help soothe me as well. So that just continued from, 4 until that evening. And then around 10 o'clock that night, I started having more consistent contractions. And I was watching them, watching the clock. I had my contraction counter, and they were coming, 6 minutes apart, 5 minutes apart, 4 minutes apart, 3 minutes apart, 5 minutes apart. And I was like, okay, this is the closest they have been, and the most consistent they have been like that. My doctor's office wasn't open then, but I knew the number to call when I was having contractions, because I actually had went into the hospital Sunday before my son was born. So I called that number, and I just told them that my contractions were coming 5 minutes apart. And they were like, if it keeps happening, then come on in. So it was about 10:30, and I told my husband, do you need to shower or change clothes or anything before we go to the hospital? Because if this continues at 11 o'clock, I'm going to be ready to go. It was maybe, I think I looked at the clock and it was like 10:42, and I made my way upstairs, and I was like, we need to leave now. So thankfully, I had packed our hospital bags. Everything was ready. They weren't by the door. They were just upstairs in our room. So we grabbed our bags, got them in the car, and headed to the hospital around 11 o'clock Thursday night on December the 8th. Thank the Lord it was at nighttime. Traffic was easy. There was like nobody on the road, because to get to my hospital from where we live, we had to go on the interstate. So we're heading to the hospital, and I talked to the doctor, and the doctor on call was from my doctor's office, but she wasn't my personal OBGYN. But throughout my pregnancy, I had seen all of the OBGYNs, so I knew this doctor. And I had planned in my head my labor so that my doctor would be the one on call. And she was on call that weekend, just not that Thursday night. So I talked to the doctor on call, and she's like, we will be seeing you soon. And we make our way to the hospital. Okay, so it is shortly after 11 o'clock, and we make it to the hospital. My husband decided to drop me off at the front entrance, and I just sat in a wheelchair and waited for him to park the car and just get out my hospital bag. When we were taking our birthing class, they told us not to bring up a lot of stuff into the labor room, because you're just going to have to move it to your mother-baby room. So we just brought up the items that I would need. So once he got out of the car, we went up the elevators and we went to triage. They were expecting me because, of course, I had called ahead. And when I got in there, they just needed my name, because I had already filled out all of the forms and done everything online. So there was no paperwork for me to do. They just needed like my name, age, and my doctor, things like that. So we check into triage, and they make me give them a urine sample while they're setting up my room. And they take me into the triage room, where they hook me up to the monitors to check my blood pressure. There's a monitor to see if I'm having contractions, and then there's also a monitor to listen to the baby's heartbeat. So they were doing all of that. And then the nurse also checked my cervix, and at that point I was 3 centimeters dilated. So I had improved from the Wednesday before, and I think the walking helped. So since my blood pressure was a little bit high and I was 3 centimeters dilated, they decided to go ahead and keep me, and they were like, we're gonna have a baby tonight, which was awesome. So they take me to a labor room, and we get all set up there. The labor rooms there were very nice. It had the bed, a pull-out couch, a chair, nice bathroom with the shower and everything like that. But I wasn't paying any attention to that at that moment, because these contractions were coming. So once I'm in the labor room, again, I get hooked up to monitors again for the contractions and to monitor the baby's heartbeat, which to me, that sound was comforting to me. So I was like, can you turn it up, please, so I can hear his heartbeat? And I would watch it on the monitors and make sure it was in like the right range of numbers that my doctor had told me was okay. But anyway, we were talking about pain management once I got checked in. And I did not want to get an epidural. I wanted my body to just do what it was supposed to do. I know that many women have had children. It's something that happens naturally, and I didn't necessarily have to have one. But then I spoke with my sister and her husband, who again are both in the medical field, and they were like, listen, you've been in labor all night Wednesday night, all day Thursday, you're tired. You want to be able to have energy to push. So they were like, you know, get the epidural, you can sleep, and then when that time comes, you'll be okay. So around, I guess it was between 2, 3 a.m. in the morning, I told my nurse, I was like, I want to get the epidural. And my sister was like, you don't have to be superwoman. You're not proving, you know, a point to anybody by doing this without any medicine. So I was like, you know what? You're right. I'm still having a baby, all that kind of stuff. So I guess it was 2, 3 in the morning when I told my nurse that I wanted the epidural. And the lady came in to give it to me. Of course, they just, you know, put the catheter in your back and, you know, they put the medicine in and then it drips, you know, continuously. So while that happened, you know, my husband was just in front of me holding my hand. And pretty much after that, he went to sleep. I went to sleep. And, you know, in the hospital, you don't get that much sleep. They're coming in, they're poking, they're prodding, they're checking me. But even with the epidural, my contractions continued. I also continued to dilate, so it didn't slow anything down. Of course, I just felt the numbness in my legs, so it was hard to, you know, move my legs because they would have me move to my right side and sleep on that side for a while. And then the next time she would come to check me, I would turn over and sleep on my left side for a little while. But each time she checked me, I continued to dilate until it was maybe 8, 9 o'clock in the morning when she checked me and she was like, okay, you're between 9 and 10 centimeters. And she woke up my husband like, okay, daddy, you may want to get up. It's going to start happening soon, which we were really, really happy about. I guess it was shortly after 9 with the nurses, we began to push. And even with the epidural, I could still feel pressure. So what they told me was, when you feel a contraction coming, let us know. And they would always say, you know, let the contraction build, because I would say, I feel some pressure. And they would look at the monitor and they would say, let it build up a little bit. And then I would go ahead and start to push. They, you know, had my legs up. They would told me to put my chin to my chest and, you know, push for 10 seconds, you know, take a deep breath and then push. And, you know, I did some practice pushes and really got the hang of it kind of quickly. One thing I did ask for was a mirror. I wanted to be able to see what was happening down there and kind of use it for motivation, so that when we started to see his, you know, head crowning and everything, that gave me something to look forward to. And I knew that, okay, it's close, he's coming, he's going to be, you know, in my arms soon. So it was around 9:45 when we started pushing, and they're like, you know, maybe we should stop her, because I was doing really well with the pushes, and they called in the doctor. By this time, the on-call doctors had changed, so it was my personal OBGYN who was on call then, and I was so happy because I didn't want anyone else to, you know, help me bring this baby into the world but her, because she had been with me even before, you know, being pregnant. She had been with me along this journey. So I wanted her there, and I was so happy that she was the one on call. So I had started pushing around 9:45. They called the doctor in, and we just kept pushing. They were encouraging me like, oh, good job, you got it, he's right there, come on. And then I could see with the mirror as well. And at 10:20, boom, we had our little baby. And I wanted to do like Kourtney Kardashian did and like pull him up, but I wasn't thinking about that in that moment. So, you know, they gave him to me and put him on my chest. And the hospital I was at is a pro-baby hospital, so they really encouraged that skin-to-skin contact as soon as the baby was born. So immediately they just laid him on my chest, and, you know, of course my husband and I are crying, saying, oh, I love you, you did so well, he's here, look at him, he's precious, he's beautiful, all of that. But, you know, I just, you know, held him there for as long as I could, and little Scotland made his arrival. So it was, I think, the most amazing experience I've ever had in my life. When he came, it was just like, you know, this is what I've been waiting for almost my whole entire life, and I never even knew that I was waiting for this moment. So we had our skin to skin, and then life has begun. I mean, he's 2 months old now, and I'm just now getting this video out because, you know, motherhood is a full-time job. I haven't even gone back to work yet. So he's here, he's happy, he's healthy, and it was the best experience ever. So I hope this was helpful and interesting, and you enjoyed our labor and delivery story. Hopefully the next video you see will be a nursery tour of this very room in which I'm filming, and we'll just continue to go from there. We love you all and we thank you all for watching. Please share this video, give it a thumbs up if you like it and you want to see more, and we will see you in the next video. Remember to be blessed, be bold, and be bonded. Thanks for watching The Belton Bond.